welcome to today's video. For today's cake, we're going to do something from the new film, Turning Red. So I'm just starting with an 8-inch Victoria sponge cake. We're just going to sandwich it together with some buttercream. Now I'm going to try and do this one without using a template. I think, to be honest, it would have been easier had I cut out a template and tried to draw around it rather than guess the shape. But I think it turned out. I do have a picture to look at, which I realise I haven't quite got on screen, but I am looking at an image to try and give me a bit of a guideline. So I've cut some off top and bottom, and then I'm going to cut a slope either side for sort of the top shape of the head. I think it doesn't look as wide maybe as the picture, so I'm going to just add a bit of that cake that I've cut off back onto it. And if you watch a lot of my other face cake videos, you will see often, guys, I do cut out a template. So I'll cut out the image to the size I want and I'll draw around that on the cake, which makes things a little bit easier than my attempt this time where I'm trying to put cake back on. So keep hold of those offcuts. I'm going to use a lot of it for like the ears. I'll probably eat some. So the ears, we're just going to cut triangle shapes out of those leftover bits of cake. Just make sure they don't stick up quite as tall as the rest of the face. And I'm going to use some more offcuts to place sort of a smaller triangle at the top of the ear so the ear looks more rounded and more curved over. Hopefully this will make sense more when I've decorated it and you can tell a little bit more what I mean. And then let's just try and curve around the outer edge of the face, just by kind of cutting off the sharper looking edges, rounding them off a bit. Another little offcut, and we're going to put a bit of cake on for the nose. I only need a small amount for the nose. It will look bigger by the time we've iced it. So let's cut this down, trying to curve the corners a little bit. Smaller still. I'm just going to press in where I think I want the eyes to go. I'm just using the bottom of a rolling pin for this. You can cut them if you want, but it's just as easy for me to squash the cake down a little bit. And the same for the mouth. So I'm going to put an indentation either side of the nose and then kind of press across with my Dresden tool. I'm going to cover the whole thing in buttercream. I'm going to try and smooth it out the best I can. I'm not very good at smoothing out buttercream, guys, so it's always a little bit lumpy bumpy by the time I've finished. Pop that in the fridge for 10 minutes, and I'm going to cover this actually in modelling chocolate. Now, usually I use fondant. Today I thought it would be nice to use modelling chocolate. It's quite a nice base colour for what I need. It looks a little bit more yellowy in real life than it does on this video. And we're just going to carefully press around the cake. Now, I thought modelling chocolate might taste a little bit nicer and it would give me a little bit longer to work with it because I'm going to put lots of lines for Red's hair on this one. So any extra that comes onto the board, we're just going to cut off. And I'm going to start by putting the longer lines in for the hair. So around the ears, she's got some long hair. You can stick extra bits of your modelling chocolate on if you want, if you need to make that hair look a little bit longer. And just have a look at an image for where Red's hair is a little bit shorter. Let's press those eyes back in. So you should be able to feel where you put them before. I'm just going to stick a bit extra of the modelling chocolate on for the eyebrows. So 2 little teardrop shapes. And I'm just trying to blend them in a little bit with the back of my Dresden tool. Now, before this paste has too much time to dry, while it's nice and soft, I'm just putting in some more little hairlines. Now, you don't have to put these lines in if you prefer not to, guys. You could keep the face pretty smooth. I just think it adds to the look of this character. So I'm putting a line up the middle of the nose area. And let's re-push in that mouth bit that we have pushed into the cake underneath, but it doesn't show very well at the moment through my modelling chocolate. And then I'm going to press in a little line where I want it to look like the tongue goes. And for the teeth, I think I'm going to stick these in. So I'm just going to take a little sausage shape of the modelling chocolate. Let's put that just under the nose and let's put some of the teeth in. Now, she's going to need more teeth than this, but we'll just draw the lines in this first. And then I'm going to add the very back ones. I'll try and make the back ones a little bit flatter so they look like the further back in the mouth. And then the sort of fang-shaped ones, they're not really very pointy. We're going to stick those in last. Then we want a small little ball for the nose. Just going to put a little line down the middle. And you can texture it a little bit if you want. I'm just going to use the end of my Dresden tool. A small piping nozzle, like a small round piping nozzle, would actually make a really nice indentation, but I didn't have one of those to hand. Let's put the nostrils in. So now I'm going to cover the whole face in these little hairlines. I'm just using my Dresden tool for this, guys. You can use different tools if you want. And like I say, you don't have to put these hairlines in if you prefer it without, because you haven't got enough time on your hands. It actually didn't take me a huge amount of time, but I still was getting a little bit bored of putting those lines in by the end. So once I've put all the lines in, I'm just going to add my remaining modelling chocolate, because I've got quite a bit of modelling chocolate left over. I'm going to put this on for the body, push it down so it's not too thick, and then what I'm going to do is just put more hairlines in. And looking at the images online, her hair is a little bit longer around the chest area, and then it gets a little bit shorter as it comes out towards the shoulders. Now, once I've done that, I can then put in a bit of colour, and I'm going to use my edible dusts. I'm going to use a pink first for the tongue, and then once we've done that, I'm going to add some black edible powder for inside the mouth area. Try not to get it on the teeth if you can help it. If it helps, guys, you can put it on as a wet paint rather than a dry powder by mixing it with clear alcohol or dipping solution. And then I'm going to dilute it down quite a bit so that it runs into the hairlines that we've drawn on. And I'm going to put it around the eyes and a little bit around that nose area. If you go on too strong with the colour, you can dab it back off again, just with a piece of kitchen roll. And I'm going to use a chili red mixed with some orange. I'm going to mix those with a bit of rejuvenator. I want it fairly diluted, again, so it runs into those lines. The thicker the paint is, the more it sits on the surface and doesn't drip between the lines. So again, I'm going over the areas that I want to be a little bit darker first. Hopefully you guys can see where it's gone between the lines. And then I'm adding a bit more orange to it. I'm going slightly thicker with the paint, so slightly less of the rejuvenator, and then I'm going to paint over the face. Just make sure you leave any areas unpainted that are supposed to be lighter in colour. So for example, that eyebrow area, and then a little bit on each cheek, and also the ears. We want to keep that our modelling chocolate colour at the moment. Anywhere you paint on too dark, you can dab off with a piece of kitchen roll. And if we want it to start blending slightly or becoming a bit paler, I can dilute that powder down a little bit more, so it's a little bit more transparent. So I want it really diluted for painting just over areas of the ear. I might even use a little bit of black powder for inside the ears. Not too much, dab any extra off if you need to. Same for the cheek area. And I'm just going to add a little line of black just to the bottom of the mouth. I'm just going to brighten the cheek area slightly with some white edible powder. I've put it on a brush that is slightly damp, just so the powder doesn't go everywhere, but I don't want it so wet that it's like a paint. And again, I'm going to catch the edge of the ears, just really the bits that I want to be really bright. And I'm just going to add a bit more depth by darkening some areas, again with that chili red colour. Now I'm going to cover the whole backboard with some red fondant. I'm going to cut out a rough shape of around sort of the ear and the head to make it a little bit easier to push it around the face. Just using my rolling pin there to roll it thin around the edges, and then it should just tear off easily at that point there. I'm going to try and overlap the pieces because I didn't have a piece big enough to go all the way around. And try and just roll over them with your rolling pin to get them to blend together. Or your finger. We're going to take some white balls of fondant. So I'm using fondant now, not the modelling chocolate, because the modelling chocolate is slightly yellow in colour and I do want white for the eyes. Just going to try and push them down in place. I pressed it a little bit hard, so there's some indentations in those eyeballs that I don't really want there. Then I'm going to use some pale orange. We're going to cut out 2 little circles and we're going to pop those in the eyes. We'll do the same but with some black fondant and a slightly smaller circle. And let's just add a bit of colour now to bring the eyes to life a bit more. So this is an edible brown pen that I'm using. I'll put links below the video, guys, to everything that I have used. I'm going to go a little bit darker near the top of each eye, and then I'm going to go over each eye with a slightly damp brush, just trying to blend out that pen line a little bit. You can even add a bit of black if you want to go a little bit darker still. So I'm going to take a tiny ball of white fondant, as small as you can go really, and I'm picking it up with the end of my Dresden tool, and I'm going to just push that into each eye. And then let's put a second one, even smaller still if you can, in there as well. The little white pieces make such a big difference to the character. There we go. Just going to darken just around the very edge of the eye, just a little bit with some powder. Just be careful not to get it on the white of the eye like I did. I will go back over that and try and wipe it off. And I'm going to give her some whiskers. So these are just some rice noodles that I got at the supermarket. So we're just going to push these in. They're actually quite bent, which usually I don't want for Whiskers. But on the picture, she looks like her whiskers are a little bit crooked looking. So I think they work well for that. They're not quite the right colour, so I'm going to paint over them with some white powder that's mixed with that rejuvenator to create a nice white paint. Again, guys, the links to everything I've used I'll put below the video. So there she is. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit the bell button under the video to get notified each time I add a new video. And subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and more.